So I'm excited to have Shea Houdmann with me today. Shea is founder and CEO of Got Questions. Now, if you've never heard of Got Questions, chances are if you type in Google any question related to the Bible or related to apologetics or like who is Jesus or why is this happening in Scripture, chances are that on the first or second page, you're going to see an answer that was written by the website on the website gotquestions.com. And so Shea, thank you so much for joining us, both joining us for the Digital Ministry Conference next week, but also just for joining me right now to have a conversation around what is it like to run a completely online, a completely digital ministry. And so first, could you just give us a little bit of background about how Got Questions came about and your personal calling?
Sure. We launched gotquestions.org in February of 2002. So we've been around for a little over 18 years now. In 2002, the internet was just really starting to be something that most people had in their homes. But most ministries were primarily using it for almost like just an online brochure. Here's some information about our organization, but if you want to do anything with us, you've got to do it in the real world. So the fact that we were looking at the internet as an opportunity for ministry, that our ministry was entirely internet-based at that time was still a relatively new concept. So very simple. We launched the website to provide a place where people could ask any questions they have about the Bible. There's such a huge need for it. The last 18 years has been the crazy ride of watching God take something that we thought was going to be small, thought that was essentially going to be a hobby, in addition to whatever real ministry God called us to, and exploding it into something far beyond we could ever ask or imagine that it would be. My background, I became a Christian in my late teens. I'd always been a little bit of a computer nerd, but graduated from Bible college and seminary and was just really asking God to provide a ministry opportunity would be the perfect fit for me, and launched the website. And it's my dream job, being able to write articles, answer questions, study theology, and also play around with technology. It's I love every minute of it.
That's awesome. Yeah, theology and technology. Who could ask for more? That's great. So you've been doing this for 18 years. What was it like in the early years, just for starting an online ministry? And like, if you were to restart it today, is there anything that you would do differently?
Well, wow. Starting it back then would be very different than starting it now. Back then, the internet was so new. You didn't even know what. A lot of things you can do now you couldn't even do back then. But and also, in a sense, though, our core concept of providing biblically based answers to spiritually related questions hasn't changed. So people can the ability to ask us a question. It's very simple in concept, but it has grown from just a simple form where people can submit questions to now a huge archive of FAQs, to also having answers in audio and video and in our apps and in our Alexa skill and any and every platform where people are using the internet to search for truth. We want to be there with answers. So the concept of our ministry really hasn't changed, just the different mediums where we're trying to plug that into. That's what's changed and grown over the past 18 years. So if we had to do it today, I can't even imagine how complicated it would be. Like if we had tried to do everything we're doing now at the very beginning, I probably would have freaked out and given out. But the way that God grew the ministry slowly but surely over the course of 18 years has really been amazing to watch. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really, I really appreciate what you said, that your message and the purpose of providing biblically based answers to people's questions, that hasn't changed. Yeah. And you've already talked about some of the ways that you've had to innovate over the years. It started out just as an online website, and then it's grown to add all the other technologies, apps. Content-wise, it started just text, then audio and video. I know you've got some really creative animated videos that you do with that. So along those lines, how do you keep growing and innovating when it comes to staying true and core to your message and purpose? How have you found it how have you found the innovation part of the ministry to stay ahead of the curve, if you will?
Well, again, the early days, a lot of the innovating was me essentially hacking my way through, trying to figure out, okay, it'd be really great if the website had this feature. I have no idea how to do it, so I'll just figure it out. To now contracting with other people who have the skills, the knowledge we need, or hiring other companies to help us to do something way better and faster than we could ever hack our way through it ourselves. And it's been so interesting in that very rarely when we innovate, when we do something new, it's not just us coming up with the idea. It's almost always been someone coming to us, hey, I love your website. Have you ever thought about having an app? Or why don't you do this as well? Or you've got all these great questions related to Bible topics. What does the Bible say about love? What does the Bible say about grace? Have you ever thought about having articles on what does John 3:16 mean? So it seems like God plants ideas in other people's minds and has them communicate them to us. And that's typically been the way we innovate, is exploring new ways of doing something similar, something still in harmony with their core strategy, but a new way of getting biblical truth into people's hands.
And you said a lot of those, it's not just you sitting in an ivory tower thinking, it's really about listening to your audience, listening to those who are coming, and not reinventing the wheel, but seeing what's working in other areas, seeing what people are asking for, and then be able to respond and just serve them well, just with a servant's heart.
And like you said, the not reinventing the wheel is huge, because there is a lot more that we could be doing, but we find there's another website or ministry that's already doing an excellent job, then we don't feel any need to expand into that area. We try to focus on what's the unique niche that we can fill that no one really else is doing. And especially in the very beginning, there was no one out there saying, come ask us any question you have about the Bible, we'll give you an answer. There are now, but still, the backbone of accomplishing something like that is a lot more complicated than people think. Because what do you do when you start getting 200 questions a day? I mean, that's not something one person can do without going insane. So God has grown us slowly but surely over the years and expanded our network as he's expanded our capabilities.
Yeah, I love what you said about staying focused on the unique niche that we can fill. Mm-hmm. And I think that's great advice for anybody who is feeling called to start a digital ministry of any type right now. What is the unique niche that nobody's doing right now, or maybe that is doing poorly, that you feel like you could step in and really fill that need there? That's really good. You talked about how in the early days you did it all yourself, and now you have staff, or you bring in contractors or companies to help you innovate more rapidly. Well, that takes money, that takes funding. Talk to us a little bit about, as an online, as a digital ministry, how did you develop your whole funding model?
Yeah. So in the very beginning, we had no funding model. I think it was about 6 months after we launched the site, someone emailed us and said, hey, you guys have answered a ton of questions I've had for many, many years that I've never gotten an answer to before. I'd like to make a donation. Are you guys tax deductible? And I was just like, what? You want to give me money to do this cool little hobby? And so that's when God really kind of opened our eyes to, okay, this might be something bigger than we were initially thinking. So we went the whole 501c3 tax exempt nonprofit status route. Started doing some fundraising so that I could eventually become the first employee, and then as the ministry grew and grew, more employees. So to the point where now we're about 80% funded through donations and about 20% through other Christian ministries we allow to advertise on the website. So, but again, the funding model has grown and changed over the years, just as the ministry's grown. The more people we're impacting, the more people who contact us similar to that very first person. Now that we've impacted millions of people instead of thousands, there's more people who are interested in donating because they've experienced the value of what the ministry we can provide.
man, the whole fact, I mean, you started this ministry really as a ministry, not even expecting money was the furthest thing from your mind. And then just to see how God has just led you one step along the way as just out of your heart of service. Yeah. Right now, so we had a conversation. There's one of the sessions that we'll be having at the Digital Ministry Conference is on fundraising in a post-COVID era. And there's a consultant, Brad Davies. He says, most organizations, only about 10% of their donations come from an online donation form or whatever. How is that reflective of what you see being a fully online ministry? Or do most of your donations come online? Do you do any regular mail, or what is that mix between online, email, regular mail? If you do you do any major donors? What are some of the things that you've tested and find working for an online ministry to work in the fundraising area?
Yeah, so I don't know the stats off the top of my head, but we've never done any real world fundraising. We've never sent out a fundraising appeal in the mail. So all of our fundraising is done online, either through a donate link on the website or through an email blast to our subscribers. And I'd say, just off the top of my head, 80% of our donations come online. And we get people who go to the donate page and then decide to mail in a check that way. But yeah, vast majority of our support is just people who don't donate online with credit cards, debit cards, PayPal, money orders, whatever other means they can use. But yeah, almost all of it is online.
Oh, that's encouraging, especially to those ministries that are looking to those individuals who may be looking to start. Hey, what does it look like for? Can I have an idea? Maybe it's about an app. Maybe it's about new technology with AI or virtual reality. I can see lots of potential new ministry things happen in those areas, and knowing that if you are intentional about meeting people's needs, if you will, ministering to them, that's what has to happen first, and then the finances will flow.
As people become more and more comfortable with giving online, submitting their credit card information online, I mean, we've seen a shift in that in recent years, as most people have done it multiple times and realize, it's actually pretty rare that your credit card information gets stolen in that sort of way. So just be careful, make sure the site's secure. And most people today are reasonably comfortable with that platform.
Great, yeah. So the last few months, we've had COVID-19, the pandemic has hit not just the United States, but the entire world. And it's had a radical impact on lots of different ministries, lots of different organizations, some for positive, some for, and many for negative. And so I'm just curious, from your vantage point with Got Questions, how has COVID impacted your ministry? And what are some of the ways that you've responded to maybe some unique needs that may or may not have been there before?
Yeah, so being an entirely online-based ministry, COVID-19 hasn't impacted anything that we actually do. For a while, it impacted where our employees have to do it from. But in terms of what we actually do, we actually did a fundraising appeal, just kind of highlighting that very point. Well, other churches and other ministries that specialize in on the ground, boots on the ground type of work, they're seriously impacted and limited by this, while internet-based ministries, every single aspect of our ministry is continuing full speed ahead, and help some people to realize, there's some true value to internet-based ministry, especially thinking we don't know how long this partial quarantine is going to last, if there's going to be a new outbreak in the fall like some are predicting. So even I've seen a lot of churches and other ministries refocus on, okay, how can we have an effective online ministry, while ministries like Got Questions that in terms of what we do hasn't had to change at all. That's encouraging. It's good to know, but at the same time, it's challenging in the sense of how do we fill the gap? How do we, for those ministries that aren't able to continue, how can we maybe help them, or even somehow take on part of their audience for a certain amount of time until they can fully re-engage or reinvent themselves.
So that's one of the blessings for you being fully online ministry. The ministry part didn't have to change that much.
Mm-hmm.
And I love what you said. We looked at ways, how can we help others? That's been our approach at 5Q. We're already a distributed team before COVID hit. So our first question was, what can we do to give back? Whether it was webinars around how to lead a distributed team, a virtual team, or even this conference. I mean, for us, this conference, the Digital Ministry Conference, has come about because of COVID. We were like, what's another way that we can give back to the community, bring the right people together? The theme of the conference is many parts, one body, and realizing that at a certain extent we're all in this together. And how can God use this so that we can come out of this stronger? Really, really excited about that. So you're going to be joined by Brian Mosley of Right Now Media, Jim Milligan of Blue Letter Bible for this session on digital first ministry. It's going to be a really, really good conversation. From your vantage point, who would be the right people to attend this session?
Anyone who's looking to either begin a digitally focused ministry or to maybe expand their current outreach. I know a lot of pastors who, before their website was just like an afterthought, but now having to stream services online, they've had to very quickly adjust. And now that they're seeing, oh wow, we actually had more people attend our online streaming service than have ever attended our regular service. So they're starting to recognize the power of this. So anyone who's looking to begin ministry online or expand or improve their ministry online, this would be an excellent opportunity for you to learn more, and also just to get excited about what God can do.
That's fantastic. That's great. Yeah, we've got a great lineup of speakers, Shea, and I already mentioned a few others. Great lineup of folks on lots of different topics that are really relevant to what ministries are thinking and facing today. So I would encourage you, if you're watching this video, watching this interview, to go to the digitalministryconference.com, register, and then share it with your team members, share it with your friends, because you're going to see that there's sessions on fundraising where your fundraising team may want to come and join. There's going to be some very practical in the weeds sessions on like why Affinity is better than Photoshop. So your designers will have something. There's something on content management systems. So I'd encourage anybody that's in the digital space, both from a content perspective, but also from a decision-making perspective, to come and attend and sign up. No charge, so just encourage you to come. Shea, what is the best, or what book or resource are you most excited about right now?
So we've been getting a ton of questions about essentially why would God allow COVID-19? Basically a subset of the why does God allow evil question. And so there's a couple of really good books I've been reading lately on that topic, and it's hard to pin down an exact one because there's good stuff that's been written on this topic all the way back to Augustine. So talking 1,500 years ago.
Or even back further, maybe the Bible.
Yeah, well, of course, we could go, pretty far back. But yeah, it's just a topic that's been on my mind. So yeah, I can't narrow it down to a specific book, but that's a topic that I think a lot of people need to think through a little better, because there's a lot of very poor answers to that question that are floating around out there.
So give us your short answer to the question. Why is God allowing COVID happen to the entire world right now?
I think a key thing is we as Christians should never presume that we actually know the answer to that question. We can give a lot of possibilities, show examples of how God is bringing about good as a result of something bad that's happened. So one, just be careful. Like never say that God is judging this nation or this city because of something that happened, because we ultimately don't know that, but it's focusing on more on the great good that he's brought about from it. But then also ultimately it gives us an opportunity to learn to trust God more, even when we don't understand why he's allowing something. And that's probably the biggest lesson we can learn, is that this side of eternity, we're never going to know the answer to every question. And that's coming from someone who spends his life answering questions. But the more you can trust God, even when you don't understand, that will give you a huge head start in dealing with issues like this.
That's great. And I'd encourage if you're watching this, go to gotquestions.org and just see the wealth of wisdom, really wisdom and information that Shea and his team has been making available in lots of different formats. So Shea, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate, and we're excited to have you on board next week, June 17 and 18 for the Digital Ministry Conference.
I'm looking forward to it too. Thank you, Chad.